A gunsmith of 50 years has joined a growing chorus of voices saying the government's buyback scheme is an anti-democratic rip-off and that some gun owners will simply ignore it. Rod Woods says people stand to lose up to 50% of the value of their now illegal weapons due to law changes introduced as a result of the Christchurch mosque shootings. Mr Woods talked me through what he'd get back for one of his guns under the proposed buyback scheme.
The retail price was $1,750. I've since modified it and added bits and pieces that have probably added another $1,000 to it. The price they're paying for that basic firearm, the base price is $1,500, of which I can only look forward to getting 95% of.
What do you think of that?
Well, I'm in the fortunate position that I can, if I so choose, because of my various other licences, I can apply for the special licence to retain it in my possession, albeit with a vital part removed and stored separately, and never be able to fire it. But I can actually keep it if I so desire. They're talking about wanting another $200 off me for the endorsement to do so, which I think is grossly unfair because I had an e-endorsement that I also paid $200 for that they've since taken off me with this legislation.
Right, but if you were one of the people forced to cash up, you're saying that all in that weapon is worth about just short of $3,000, and ultimately you would only get half of that back. So, how appealing do you think that will be to people?
Well, from my discussions with various people that I meet from day to day, some people would find that they've had an inexpensive semi-automatic for some years, and the buyback price for them is reasonably attractive. Not dramatically so, but reasonably so. To the enthusiasts that perhaps have a few firearms and they've looked after them and added bits and pieces to them, almost to a man, they're dissatisfied with what's being offered. And I've heard many, many talks that, look, if it's not going to be worth my while, why the hell should I hand it in?
Really?
And this is from law-abiding people.
Do you believe that normally law-abiding people will retain their weapons because the price is not good enough?
I think the vast majority of them are going to think twice about handing them in. Ultimately, I guess a lot of them will do so. But, there's been a total demonisation of innocent parties here, and we're the ones that are going to be financially suffering, and the country is going to be financially suffering, I might add, for something that will have absolutely no effect on any similar unfortunate event occurring in the future.
So how is the country financially suffering out of this?
Well, we're probably to the tune of close to $1 billion having to fund this confiscation and compulsory compensation system that they've got. The compulsory compensation is actually going to be less for a lot of people who are innocent law-abiding people. They bought the stuff legally. They've had a loss of liberty. They've had a loss of enjoyment, which they're not being compensated for. We haven't caused any problems. We're not going to cause any problems. But we're going to suffer financially. We're going to suffer a loss of liberty. We're going to suffer a loss of enjoyment for absolutely zero benefit to the country.
What about the benefit being that we may all be safer?
But you were never in danger in the first place. It's counterproductive to the good feeling of the people regarding the government. And what's it achieving? To my way of thinking, it's political zealotism and nothing else.
So, Rod, how do we make this better then and more enticing? Is it that the government has to throw more money into the pot to make this happen?
There needs to be accurate compensation. The list that they've put out is comprehensive but not all-encompassing by a long way. And there is provision for firearms that may well be outside the parameters of the list to be independently valued, but they're asking that the owners pay a $120 fee to have this valuation done.
Right, okay. Well, in terms of the list, run through what your thinking is for, say, an AR-15 in terms of what it would have cost and what you might get back for it.
Well, my own example is a rifle that had a retail value of $1,750. they've put a base price of $1,500, of which I can look forward to 95% of that, even though the firearm is in brand new condition.
I understand that you were in Wellington when the details of this buyback were announced. So what were you doing there? Who were you meeting with? What were you talking about?
I was one of a police partnership group to do with collectors, and we were there to work with the police to try and figure out a means by which this law can be processed and worked through in a manner that's fair to all parties. The legislation in its basic form is largely unworkable. The police are in the unfortunate position of being between a rock and a hard place, trying to make something work that was developed in the first place with the deliberate intention of not including people that actually knew what they were talking about.
So did you get any joy from that conversation, Rod? Because it sounds like it's unlikely.
Well, the police were very good in listening to us and made a few concessions that they would look into. There's no guarantees, of course. And while we were in the meeting, of course, the buyback announcement came on the television, and we put it on the overhead projector. We watched it for a few minutes and we turned it off because it was a waste of time.
You found it that distasteful? You just hit the off button?
Well, even the police in the room were pretty much in agreement that it was just political speak that was going on. There was no substance to it. There was no point in watching it.
And that was gunsmith Rod Woods.